Hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to the Video is Awesome podcast once again, where you come to change your creative mind. And I hope we do just that today. This is going to be excellent. I've got a wonderful guest, as I mentioned before. We're going to be talking with an amazing entrepreneur in the community, and he's my good friend. I love him to death. Brother in Christ. We have so many great connections. It's William Green, and today I'm going to bring him on the call right now. We're going to be talking about something very important for you business owners. We're talking about why your story is so important and why authentic branding really works. And we've all heard this before. We've heard authentic branding, IRL live streaming. We've heard all these buzzwords. Maybe you haven't. Maybe it's new to you, but they're flying around there. And authenticity, why do these things actually work? And there's a lot of people that know their story works. There's a lot of people that don't think their story is valuable at all. So we're going to get into all of that and hopefully bring a lot more clarity to this subject. So I've got Will on the line right now. Will, how you doing, brother?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Bryan.
Oh, it's my pleasure, man. Thank you so much. I'm just so stoked to talk to you about this, because this subject, I think you would agree with me, is one that you and I are quite passionate about.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, I appreciate you talking about how authenticity and a lot of these buzzwords are just kind of being almost like used and abused, right? When it comes
Yeah.
to advertising agencies reaching out and telling people this or telling people that. You really have a lot of individuals out there that are kind of touting and repeating actually a lot of what authenticity means, and they throw out the statistics about like, oh, authenticity is the highest frequency, it's 4,000 times more powerful than love, and
Oh, yeah.
all of these things that people say, and it gets a lot of clicks, right? I call it clickbait, right? So
Yep.
but that's not what we're here to talk about today, and I'm excited. Like you said, I'm excited to get into it for sure.
Yeah. So I love that you said that, because it is. It's isn't that funny too? Authenticity. What does it mean? And then, the last place you're going to find the meaning of authenticity is outside of yourself, right? Because that doesn't really make a lot of sense. We really got to. That's the conundrum of the whole thing, is that, well, just be yourself. Well, if I'm thinking about being myself, am I really being myself? Now I'm living as the objective observer. It's we go into all these things. So what the psychology behind it, I'm a nerd, so I love it, because there's so many conundrums to it, which is why I think people get a little bit maybe weirded out by. I mean, I've noticed some people absolutely love their story, but then when it comes time to share it on demand, they might be a little squeamish about it. Or there may be a person who doesn't think their story, they don't think anybody cares. It's not valuable. Maybe they're extremely authentic, right? But as soon as you bring out the cameras, it's like, all right, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are we doing? And this is all about, like, today we can gear this towards professional video production as well, but I'm hoping we can also kind of tap into a little bit of the DIY for people who might be thinking about it. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, because we know there's a need for both. You've got to have a professional that you really like working with. It's kind of like a plumber, but you also got to have that DIY going. What are your thoughts on that, as far as building your story and your messaging? Because, I mean, I guess where do we start here? It's such a big subject, but you and I talk about it all the time. The story, man, it's so valuable. I get up in the morning because of story, and I'm that person, right? I'm that video professional. So for me, that's my life. But what would you say to a business owner that doesn't know how valuable their story is?
Well, I guess, I mean, to me, The thing is I've been in marketing and sales for a very long time, and there's something to be said for being genuine. I mean, customers really appreciate genuineness, and they appreciate honesty in when they're dealing with you. And it just leads to stronger loyalty. And it's almost like this. It's like, hey, you know what? Do it. You know, if everything else is equal, I want to support the guy that I can kind of relate to, or the business owner that I can relate to, right? Like, you know, hey, maybe he's got a family with some kids, you know, and he lives in the same area as me, and you know what I mean? And they maybe do some of the same things, give to the same charities as I do. If I know that about that business, I'm going to be a lot more inclined to possibly do business with them, right? In the first place, because I understand who they are. Because if you don't know who you are, and that's the other thing, right? If you don't know who you are, right, then you don't really know where you're going. And you know, and if I'm going to have somebody, I'm going to hire somebody that, you know, I want them to be a certain type of person. I want to know that this guy knows how to build my fence. I want to know that this person knows how to take care of my needs, and that they're a professional. And, you know, I want to be able to relate to them. So yeah, I think it's so important to be genuine and to share that.
100%. Yeah, because it really is about community and relationship. I think it's so interesting that there's like this, I don't know, it's almost like because the population growth, I don't know, in tandem with this, maybe call it a modern approach to capitalism, because there used to be a lot more reliability on your neighbor to carry out your daily tasks, right? And maybe even just your way of life. It was a lot different when the towns. If you've ever lived in a small town, you know what I'm talking about. You know, there's that connection. So we get to the modern day, and we're thinking, oh, well, how do I build trust with somebody that is a stranger? You know, what does that even really look like? And I know that I've had some amazing meetings with people who I just met. We sat down for coffee. We had an exceptional, I mean, shoot, you and I started that way. We just had a meeting and had some coffee, and ended up being an amazing conversation. And it turned into just an excellent friendship, business relationship. You never know what might occur by just genuinely caring about where somebody is. So why is it we only assume that exists in like a compartmentalized way? Does that make sense? Because that's the importance of story and marketing, is that you literally need to sit down with somebody and get to know somebody, care about somebody, let them know, like, and trust you. So that's such an exceptional way to do it. Isn't that one of the most, and then I want to hear your thoughts, isn't that one of the like first things people say is, you know, where are you from? And, you know, what's your story? When you're in person with people. So everybody wants to take advantage of this digital space and this video marketing phenomenon, but they try to do it in a way that they wouldn't normally do it if it was really them there, right? So, and that's fascinating to me, because you would think, and I wonder if maybe that's because of a misconception that has developed in the marketplace, that you don't even need that. And so therefore it almost creates like an unconscious devaluing of one's own story, which is completely wrong. And I think it's kind of like the flash in the pan mentality, if you will, where there's always the infomercial out there that gets some product has an overnight success. But that's not your normal business stuff. You're not everybody's going to make a funnel with a video that's just flashy and they're going to make a ton of money. Not to mention, I don't know how fun that really is anyway. This is what gets me fired up about story, is because everybody has one, and which means everybody who's a business owner or an entrepreneur or investor they have the ticket. They have everything they need to build a knowing, a liking, and a trusting in their community. Would you agree with that? Do you believe story has that ability?
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So like, one of the things that you kind of touched on is I think that a lot of business owners these days have kind of been sold on a bill of goods of just attracting leads, right? Like put all of your money into ad spend. And what it is they're seeing they're seeing that those impressions are getting more and more costly, right? And the reason that is because there is so many advances, and there's a lot of people that are playing at that same level as far as like ad
Right.
budgets and doing all of that. So what ends up happening is you may have that clever twist, that humor or whatever to attract somebody to your brand, but if you don't have the depth and the quality to go along with that, which is where story I believe comes in, and you're going to interact in like as you're investigating a brand and looking at it for the possible service or needs that you have, if you don't have that depth of story, if you don't have that genuine connection, if you don't have the things that are going to make me that's it's going to allow me to resonate with you as a business, then there's a high likelihood I'm not going to convert when I hit that website, right? So like if I don't understand who you are, what you do and why you do it, and I don't see why you're passionate about what you do, there's a good chance I'm going to bounce and go to somebody that's going to be more in line with my value systems, right? And what I'm trying to
Mm,
accomplish. And
yeah.
that's not, of course, in every business. Like, I mean, you have like, hey, I got an emergency. I just need my car towed, right? So
Right. Right.
you
Right.
have stuff like that, right? But I mean, if
Mm-hmm.
you're really passionate about building a brand and you want something that's going to last and stick around for a while, it's telling your story and how it started, that's one part of it, but it's an ongoing thing, right? It's
Yes.
not just, it doesn't just happen one time. You have to, get people involved with your brand, get them behind the scenes, let them see that you are, a real person, and let people understand that you have all of these people that you're taking care of in the community, your employees, your customers, all of that. And if you can share that story with people, then that's where that customer loyalty comes in, right? Because then it's like, hey man, this, I go here because they support veterans, because this guy, he spent time in the military and he did his thing, you know what I mean? And then I also, I love the fact that they give back to first responders. They try to help, the kids, coats for kids every year. I'm happy to pay a little bit extra for this guy's service because they're an active part of the community. And maybe that franchise that's out there that has to do the canned stuff and that has to do all of the, cookie cutter type of advertisements with, you know what I mean, with the
Mm-hmm.
stock photos and the stock videos and all that stuff. Maybe I don't do business with that guy because, you know, it's just not, it doesn't seem that they want to touch my heart. They don't want to be a part of my community. They don't want to be, you know what I mean? They don't want to be real with me. But, this guy's put forth the time, energy, and effort to showcase the fact that they are 100% authentic and they're part of my community. So that's why I'm making the decision to spend my dollar, vote, right? Your dollar's your
Mm,
vote,
yeah.
to vote for a small business owner in the community.
Hundred.
And
Hundred
that's
percent.
why I feel, yeah, that's why I feel like where the, like you said, you can do all the gimmicks and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, and try to compete at the level with these regional players. But what you're going to find is if you're not investing in your story, if you're not investing in that genuine connection with your clients and maintaining it over time, you're really missing out on the boat. You really are.
Yes, and one might even argue that all these, even these giants, started with a story, and one can argue that they've strayed from it, or it's not as now they just keep customers because of familiarity and mass marketing, and that is true. There's a lot of truth to that, and but I think that what we're both saying here too is that is not the standard, and that is not necessarily even what the people want. I mean, I know a lot of people that do not like the big block stores. They don't like that it takes away from the community. The money does not go into the community. It's pulled out of the community. It is, I mean, and sure, they might have some good causes that they bring some back, but and they're paying some employees, right? But the majority of it is going elsewhere. It's being sucked out of the local community and going into some whatever other centralized causes, wherever maybe the headquarters is located, or their own choice in their endeavors. But I wanted to. That's neither here nor there. I think we can all kind of get on board with the fact that we want to support local business. We want to bring it back to the pioneership and the community connectivity. No one's saying that having a big chain or a big business, that's the beauty of capitalism. You can have that. But I have seen some amazing chains that stay local. They franchise, right? And so that business owner is living in that place. And everything that they earn is being paid out to employees and paid out to that community, and they're supporting their neighbors, their the kids' hockey team and everything, So there is a way. That's a sidebar conversation. But what I wanted to come back to real quick was something you said about, sometimes you do call the tow truck in a pinch and you don't really know them. But maybe their advertising actually worked because unconsciously you're remembering their name, and that's why you saw them online and you decided to call them over anyone else. So, real quick disclaimer, that does work, folks. That's the other reason to market with your story, because people will remember you. But I wanted to say something real quick about when you brought that up. I'd say that sometimes I think the perception is that, oh, well, I can't always do a marketing with me sitting, around the fire telling my story. And like you said, it's an ongoing thing, which was such a powerful way to describe that. And this is a great way to kind of I want to say just like, let's pull this apart a little bit so people can see the insides. This ongoing story, I've had those one-off situations with, let's say, a tow truck guy. And he comes, and the experience is phenomenal. And the way that he carries himself and the way that he cares about you and your needs, and you get to talking, you get to having this conversation. He may never have told you where he's from or but maybe he just shared with you a story, a brief story of like his experience recently. Because we always do that, right? We're like, oh yeah, I could totally see where you're coming from. The other day I was doing X, Y, and Z. Well, that type of thing occurs in a natural human interaction because we're enjoying our time with this person. We're grateful for their service. They've got a great personality. They're really opening up. They're sharing, right? They're really sharing and opening that space up for an interactivity. And the point here is that now you're connected with this person's story, but it's not the story that you necessarily assume as the traditional personal story or business story. There's a vast spectrum to the piece or part or dimension of one's story that can be shared at any given moment that creates that connection. We do it all the time in person, and we take it for granted when it comes to marketing because we think, oh, well, nobody cares about. This is why social media took off, is because, believe it or not, a lot of people do care if you just had a BLT. They really do care. There's actually a lot of people that'll like your photo because they're like, oh, that's cool. You're making me hungry right now. You're reminding me of, oh, where did you get that sandwich? It looks amazing. I want to go there. A lot of people make these gripes about social media, though I can relate with them. Some of it seems kind of silly to me, but that's just me. You don't want to dismiss it just because it doesn't make sense to you. And that's another key point to your own story. And one last little piece, and then I want to hear your thoughts, is that same guy on the tow truck might not have even been the business owner, but he was somebody who's in the culture of the business, and the business owner has developed such a wonderful culture because he cares about the people, he cares about his community, he wants everybody who works with him to offer a level of customer service and camaraderie and just a rapport that is really, really just top notch and is truly genuine. And when you find the right employees, that represents your business too. So the point here is that one story can be so much more than just a chronological expression of how your business came to be. I mean, you read some of these people's about pages and I'm just like, oh my gosh. You really think, like, and I'm not trying to disrespect, but seriously, like, there comes a point where you're like, okay, you could have enriched that just a little bit. Like, I feel like I'm just reading in the encyclopedia, and it's literally nothing but a straightforward, dry, factual depiction of how you came to be. Boring. You know what I mean? So, but there's a time and a place for it. My point here, though, is that it's not always that chronological depiction of what your business, when it was founded, how it came to be. Oh, let's throw in a few challenges of what we went through. Because you could, how many marketing videos could you do with that? You could probably come up with an assortment, but you couldn't go on forever just doing it that way. You would eventually say the same thing over and over and over, right? When you said that key point that this is an ongoing thing, we don't do that with each other when we see people, new people, and sometimes we say our story the same way to, you know, new people, but typically if we're running into the same guy at the bus stop every day or the gas station or whatever, we have this new and authentic, ongoing, living way to share our story. Yeah. Thoughts?
Yeah. So couple of things on that, right? So, and what I mean by that, you know, that it's an ongoing thing. It's like, let's say you do have that transactional type of situation that they originally came in for that thing, right? That widget or that service or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then, like you said, you know, because you guys, you know, because you're not thinking in terms of transaction, I have to tell my story so that they come in and then that's the end of the deal.
Right.
But you're saying to them, you know, this is what I get a kick out of all of these, you know, these email top of mind awareness campaigns. They're hilarious to me because they go in, they're like, okay, well, I gotta put something out for holidays and I gotta put something out for a calendar and like, you know, and all of this stuff.
You're right.
And what
right.
people miss, you know, we're going to do a newsletter and it's going to be a market update and like nobody's interested in your market updates, man.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
But I am interested in like, you know, hey, you know, we're bringing on this new service that's going to add superior value to everything else that I do in this for the people that I serve, right?
Right.
I am interested as a client in understanding, seeing your story about how you're evolving, how you're giving back into the community, about, you know, how you're rewarding your employees and engaging with them and talking about rewarding them because of the superior service that they provide. I am interested in hearing about that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Is when I get done. So if you stop looking at like your marketing and your advertising and even, you know, video shoots or whatever the medium you choose as a transactional thing to get X, and start looking at it as a way to bring people into your story, a way to bring people into your brand, and a way to continue to add value to what you provide and touch people and touch the, you know, in the right way to create an involvement with who you are as a company and what you're meant to be as a company, right? Because, you know, quite frankly, your company and the services you provide, you may not think that they're unique, but they are. There's something that you're doing that nobody else is doing out there, because by just the inherent thing of you being you're going to do something just slightly different. And if you're not able to pinpoint that, if you're able to figure that out, that's why you hire somebody that is sensitive to that. And, you know, if you're hiring a marketing company that doesn't ask you who you are, if you're hiring a marketing company that doesn't really care about like how you work with your clients, or doesn't even try to attempt to understand, you know, what your story is, then you should not spend your money with that company.
Absolutely.
Period.
Yep. And you know what? Would you agree to real quick, because I want to touch on that, but there was one little thing before when you mentioned no one cares about your market updates. You know what I find interesting, what you said in the very beginning, is that people are, it's smart in nature, but trying to emulate the leaders in the marketplace when you're growing, you're still in a very, very, smaller growth stage. And you're essentially emulating, and it's weird. It's almost like it washes over the population, where people start thinking, oh, that's the standard. It like almost starts to become a perceived standard of marketing, that, oh, we got to have top of mind emails. We've got to have this. We've got to have, let's put together, what are those called? I guess, if I'm just thinking in the marketing realm of video, there's also these little drops that people will literally just do, and they're just to create exposure on social media, which I'm not saying that's bad, but like you said, there's things that just, no one's gonna care until you actually reach the level at which those tactics were born, right? Because I guess what I'm trying to say is, once you've got 30,000 to 100,000 in your email list, it might make sense to send something. I'm not saying there aren't those onesie twosies that actually care about your particular things, right? But you're putting so much time into that to hit the one or two people. You might almost be better just dropping them a quick line saying, hey, did you know I do this? And then move on. It's in a text message or something, or if it is going to be a message, it might be a DM on social media. You're not doing a whole market campaign, a whole email campaign, until you've actually got those 30,000 to 100,000 people in your list, because you're actually at that level to do maybe a generic drop just for the purposes of actually hitting, maybe on average, 1,000 people that really are looking for that. Because you've got such a vast demographic of people, they might actually really care about that. Like, because you brought up an example before too that was really good. The top of mind emails, but then there's also the, what did you say, the calendar? What's the calendar thing you were bringing up?
Oh, yeah. Well, just, hey, we just got to celebrate the holidays just to celebrate the holidays.
Right,
so we're just going to throw up
Thank you.
preconceived,
generic,
like a preconceived thing, generic thing. Yeah.
Right. Thank you. And so anyways, that was a long-winded way of saying, I totally agree with that. And I feel like, because every good business owner says, well, don't reinvent the wheel. So let's do what's working. But sometimes I think that that's where the story suffers. Or the usage of a person's story is because now they're trying to emulate things that are not even relevant to their stage yet, because they're doing schematic based or almost systematized approach to growth, when really a person does not become a successful large business without relationships. And so you're not going to, because what happens when you have all these people that you want to serve, you can't just email blast them for all their problems. You have to develop that culture, develop that, really that soul of your business. And the people need to know that soul of your business, because that's why they attract to you. So to get to the next thing that you were talking about with the video marketing and the story, I feel like the same thing is emulated, where if you're going to drop a holiday video, okay, why would I look at that when I'm, literally during these times, I'm thinking about what I'm doing during these holidays, or I'm doing, and I know this is kind of getting into the minutia here a little bit, but you had said something that just really, really struck a chord with me about story, because if you set that story aside, there's, like you said, there's multiple ways to convey this story, and it's not necessarily the way that you think. And if you let that go to the side because you're trying to do all of the things right that you think are right to reach people, thank you, crazy brain of mine. I just remembered where all of this was going towards was in reference to what you said about serving people and being different. You are different than the next guy. It's easy to get discouraged when you're looking at 100 other people in your community that do what you do, and you're thinking, oh, well, I'm just gonna, do what they do and just try to be really good at it, and hopefully I'll get enough customers. Well, I just had to put a post together the other day for this where I said, not even Walmart serves everybody. So you should stop trying to as well. Because trying to serve everybody reflects in your marketing. You just start doing this generic stuff. You're doing all these things to try to reach like every demographic. And that doesn't really work. I mean, admittedly, you can get large enough, you can have a vast amount, but not even the big people serve everybody. So, and what I shared right after that was when you do your own expression of your story, share from who you are, nothing more and nothing less. Because I think what people tend to do is they maybe think their story isn't enough, so they compensate with going over the top and trying to say what they think is what works or what's trending or what is my competitor doing. And don't get me wrong, looking at your competitor is a good idea. Definitely learn from it. But and maybe even, like the old adage says, all good artists are copycats or they're thieves, right? Because everybody steals good things from other artists and other competitors, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But I think this idea, or if you minimize yourself in your story because you don't think anybody cares or you don't think it's relevant, now you're in the same boat again, where you're worrying too much about serving everybody and anybody. And I think that's a big problem. How do you feel about that? As far as a person's story, do you think these two issues, or these two sides of the coin here of trying to serve everybody, you're either shrinking yourself down or you're trying to puff yourself up to something that you're not really?
Yeah, I think, like you were saying, it is really about differentiation, right? It's, there's always going to be competition. We live in a wonderful world where competition is a part of things. And yeah, some people might try to copy what you do, and that's going to happen, right? But at the end of the day, the way you are going to stand out is to showcase your unique identity. And one of the things that you mentioned too about, the kind of those internal objections that a lot of people might have about like, hey, not feeling that the story is good enough or not really knowing how to tell it. That's where real marketing comes into play, right? And real marketing consultants and real companies that actually work with you to bring that out, that's who it is. Like I said before, if you're a business owner and you're out there and you're shopping marketing companies and you're talking about that stuff and they're not asking you about like your sales process and how you interact with your customers, and they aren't putting the human first, right? When it comes to that, that's where you're missing out, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what people do. Humans buy from humans. AI and all those tools that are out there, that's great, right? But humans buy from humans, right? We want to, especially if it's anything significant, right? Like if I'm going to purchase something significant, I'm not going to buy it just off of a thing. I might do that on Amazon, right? You know what I mean? But I'm not going to buy a house. I'm not going to buy my roof online, right? I'm not going to buy my car from somebody. I'm going to buy my car from somebody, right? And so at the end of the day, like it just depends on like what you're trying to do. But the other thing is that when you're truly authentic, right, and you're really in that space, and I love what you said about soul, right? Because I think at the end, I think what you have to look at is who you are, right, is really your soul gift, right? That is your gift, right? And that was given to you uniquely, right? And there's nobody else that has that. So as a business owner, making sure if you can find a way to convey that on your own, that's wonderful. And I think that there's amazing business owners out there that are very good about showcasing who they are and really bringing that out in their DIY messaging and their marketing. And I think that's wonderful. I also do believe that there are individuals that need a little help. And if you do need help, it pays dividends to get somebody in your corner, to get somebody they working with you to help bring that out. Because if you can bring that out and make that not a transaction, but make it a relationship, and then cultivate that relationship with the community, cultivate that relationship with the customers as soon as they walk into your door or they come on your radar, and maintain that connection with them throughout the entire transaction, build whatever you're doing, and then also staying in touch with them afterwards and create customer advocacy. That's what's really going to move the needle. So many people are focused on leads this and get me more leads and do all this other stuff, right? And but they forget about, the value of a great referral source, right? And cultivating that type of a relationship with them, right? They forget about the value of, people in their industry that could, potentially help them build their business, and networking with them, which should be a part of any strategy, right? And they forget about, providing that ultimate customer service. I mean, customer service isn't just about the transaction and providing that great customer experience while they're doing it with you. It's about customer education, letting them know what else is there, what other value you can bring to the table for them. Understanding hey, a portion of this, when you're spending money with this, a portion of this is going back to the community. And that's why I say it's ongoing, because if you really think about your story, it doesn't end in that one specific window of time that you decided to start your business, right? It's a year after year, day after day, you are building this together. And guess what? Your employees are part of that story. You know what I mean? Your partner is a part of that story. Your family is a part of that story. Your community is a part of that story. Your clients and your customers are a part of that story. And so if you really have that outlook of saying to yourself, I want to build a great business where people are just emphatic about using me and emphatic about telling people about me, that's where you have to get to. And, if you need help, then you got to hire the right people to tell the story.
Absolutely. And, there's two sides of this coin, too, that I think are awesome to talk about, because, sometimes you've got to have a professional who knows how to be with you and capture that essence, bring it forth in a functional manner that is so real, but also postured in a way that really just dynamically represents the professionalism, the quality, the integrity, the strength and that you want to bring to the community, and why you do what you do. But on the other side of the coin, because many of the things you were just sharing bring up something that is so dear to me, and I think it's so important for people to develop, because also, hand in hand, it helps you work with a professional even better for your content creation, is how to develop a lifestyle that allows you to authentically share with others in that digital space. Because I think, there's a lot of people, they'll get tapped into just organic, right? And I get it. I still, you can't beat in-person human interaction. It's just always the best. And it's the best form of connection there is. But there is a way to, because there's really no point in using the digital space unless you're willing to figure this out. This is my thought. And some might disagree, but I honestly think it's got to be a priority to figure out how do you share with those remotely who are not, maybe they haven't met you yet, maybe they're just in a far off land, or they're actually right down the street, but they've never met you. They've never taken the time to come meet you. but you chose to put yourself out there. So developing a lifestyle that actually hones in who you are, what you're doing, why you do it, and really just full of that spark that makes you get up every day. Finding out how to do that in your day-to-day life and capturing it. Because, there's a lot of business owners I talk to, I coach them, I say, hey, get your employees to help you. Set up cameras in a particular way. There's a way to set things up. Set yourself up for success, because some people, they have the excuse, right? Like, I don't feel authentic. I don't feel genuine when I start trying to. Well, that's the point. Is that when you get with a person, and you guys are you're just having a ball. You're really just jiving, right? Well, that's the same thing you're doing. The only difference is you're thinking about it now because you're trying to put it out there. But really, at the end of the day, what's the difference between that and choosing to show up at an event, choosing to show up at your friend's business, and choosing to show up for a public speaking event or whatever it might be? You're just choosing to show up for people you haven't met yet. That's the only difference. And everybody can develop a lifestyle that will allow them to do it, and to do it well. And to actually, this is the one thing that I love about it. I want to hear your thoughts on this, Will. Is that when you do this, you crack this code and you say, and start with baby steps too. Like, check this out. I always say, if the baby step that you have right now is literally just picking up a pencil and writing down on a piece of paper that I will begin creating my lifestyle of content creation. If that's step one and that's where you're at, great. Write it down. That's all you have to do for today. It will literally lead to the next step eventually. It really will, if you're dedicated and if you're serious. But let's say you're beyond that and you're actually ready. You get one camera set up and you're like, hey, every single day I have this inspiration when I'm pacing back and forth at this part of my office. Put a GoPro there, whatever it might be, and set a lapel mic somewhere. And whenever that happens, you just clip it on and you just go for it. My point to all this is that once you actually crack that code, you will actually develop what I call like a compounding effect in your inspiration and your storytelling ability, in your ability to convey what it is that you do. And also, you'll inspire yourself in the sharing process to actually do better and do more and advance your business. Would you agree with that, Will?
Absolutely. And that's one of the things that I try to share with my clients as well, is like, stack projects, right? Create something and say, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to do this. And people think, they get overwhelmed. And I think overwhelm stops you from actually doing the dang thing sometimes. So
analysis by paralysis or paralysis by analysis.
Exactly. Oh, I need to be doing this every day. Well, maybe you just don't have the ability to. Maybe you can only do it on Tuesdays. Well, be prepared, be ready, and set it up for Tuesday then. There's so many different techniques that we can share with people, like shooting batch content 1 day per week, or you know what I mean, scheduling things out. But if you're not preparing yourself to expand in that manner, and you're not reaching out for help, right? That's the other side of it. You may not even have to pay somebody if you're just doing a lot of DIY stuff. Or DIY, if you know somebody that can give you just a little bit of knowledge, and there's so many people out there that are willing to help, right? To say, hey, look, let's set up a camera and let's do it right here in this corner of the room, and we'll just bust it out when we need to bust it out, and we'll just do it. But be consistent. Don't do too much at once. And also, when you're doing a project, do one project at a time. And once you get that project dialed in and it's working for you, add another one, and then add another one. And so until you're to the point where your messaging is paying off, and it's really, time to bring in the professional team to actually, systematize everything for you, that is the best way I feel to get things started is start with one project at a time, build it out, do it well. And if that's one post a week or if it's one post a month, just be, just do it well, right? Be you, be authentic, and make sure that you're giving it every bit of professionalism that you can. And that's not saying that you can't just jump on a live stream and hold your phone up in the corner, right? But just, you know, be consistent and, have people expect that this is this thing that you're going to do now. Once you set those expectations with your team, once you set those expectations with yourself, and you find a way to hold yourself accountable, you're going to find that it becomes a habit. And once it becomes a habit, now you've really created something where you can get the momentum. The worst thing you can do is to start and then stop, and then start and then stop, and then beat yourself up over perfectionism, beat yourself up over the things that, that you don't know. Hey, if you don't know it, you don't know it. You can ask, right?
Right.
Or you can do whatever it is that you do know how to do,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, and it's okay to do it and then not necessarily like the results. That's okay. Every writer that you see, we've all seen it before, right? The person who's trying to write something and they've got a bunch of crumpled up pieces of paper that have missed the wastebasket, and you can see them. The camera slowly pans up and they just crumpled up another one and they're just throwing it. They're at their wits' end. Could you imagine if he never ever tried to put the pen to the paper? Well, then it would never happen. It would never happen. So getting to this point of telling your story, bringing this all around full circle to folks to understand that your authentic story it's a mess, just like the rest of ours. All of our stories are a mess that actually are a message. And the reason for that is because we all relate. We all relate. Life is wild. It's crazy. So there's this thing that I do sometimes. Maybe you do it, and it's actually what brought me to this ability of conveying and articulating and being okay with not knowing where I'm going with an expression, but finding my way. That's a key part of telling your story. We all do it. We all do it every day. But do we all embrace it? There's a practice that I do called stream of consciousness writing. I don't know if you've ever done it. You actually sit down and you literally just allow yourself. You can do it on a computer too. Doesn't matter if you're typing or writing. You literally just write every single word that comes to mind in the order that it comes, and just keep going. And choose, maybe you do it for 60 seconds. And you literally just allow your mind to stream. Whatever it is in your head, you're just writing it down. And it might make no sense at all. It might be this crazy jumbled mess. But you'll find that, because the practice is designed to help you let go of thinking about what you're trying to say. Because believe it or not, that actually causes us to clam up more than anything. It causes us to try to make it perfect, like you said. It causes us to run into walls and then just stop talking altogether or believe that we can't do it. Reminds me of a lesson that I learned being a hand drummer. One of the best lessons I ever learned that the hand drum taught me is that when you start drumming, there's no option to stop. You can't stop. You're the rhythm. You're the one that is carrying everything. Well, if you look at it that way, when you do this stream of consciousness writing and practice, you actually get better and better and better at not stopping and being okay with what comes out. And then believe it or not, for me, I don't know if this is the same for everybody. Maybe some artists and some people that are speakers, it just always stays a jumbled mess. But for me, over the years doing it, it eventually started to become very coherent and very accurate to what I believe and my why.
Yeah. I believe in stacking success, right? A lot of people are like, oh yeah, you learn from your failures and this and that. And there's some truth to that for sure. But stacking success upon success, right? Like, hey, if you ever try to play an instrument, when you first picked up the guitar, it probably didn't sound the greatest, but because you keep working at it and because you keep doing it over and over and over again, and it became ingrained and part of your everyday, eventually you become pretty good at it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same thing with just about anything in life, whether it's, fitness or, doing, eating better. You know what I mean? Just, practice is going to, you will improve. Right.
Yes.
So, but if you don't ever start, you'll never ever have that true authenticity. And then what'll happen is you'll still know that you still need to market your business.
Right.
And so you'll end up hiring somebody who doesn't know you, who doesn't do all this stuff, who just gives you canned stuff, and you're trained to take their direction. But at the end of the day, man, they're not going to be able to convey it just as powerfully as you can. So I feel like if you started right doing it and you've gotten pretty good at it, and then you bring somebody on, but you know how you want it, how you want your message conveyed, that's when the afterburners can come on. That's when those professionals can really add color to your brand and bring it to life, right?
Yes.
Is because you already understand it. You understand who you are, and you've been trying to convey it, and now you just are looking for the way to take it to the next level. That's when you do it. But if you're doing stuff and just pawning it off on another, hey, I'm going to just have these guys handle it, but you're not involved with it, then 9 times out of 10, the relationship it's just not going to work well. You have to be involved in every aspect of your business, right? Whether it's the guy that cleans the toilets to, you know what I mean? To everything.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of people, they get, especially with marketing and telling their story, right? They get afraid to actually do something. And don't let fear hold you back, because that's just fear doesn't come from the same place that your soul gift comes from. Let's just put it that way.
That's right. And also, you just said it right there too, is that don't let fear hold you back, and also don't let, and maybe sometimes these are coincide, but don't let the financial side of things, the investment, tell you that you shouldn't do it either. Because I talk a lot about this, is that yes, do DIY, do video production, do content generation on your own, telling your story, but then when it's also time to do that thing that really needs to show off your brand and show the true message, don't hold back, because at the end of the day, and this includes even buying your own equipment, getting some equipment for yourself, and taking the time to make these pieces of content. Don't not do all of that because it's just a headache, or you don't think it's worth your time, or whatever, or you don't see the ROI. Because at the end of the day, I think there's a misnomer out there that the ROI in marketing has to be somehow monetary every time. No, it does not. As a matter of fact, I find that many people who do a lot of successful marketing and content generation with me, they're actually building assets that are purely designed to nurture the people they've already got. It doesn't have to bring in more money. Sometimes it improves the quality of your relationship. As a matter of fact, I think quite often, it improves the quality of your relationships. And yes, you want to bring in new ones, of course. That is part of marketing. But that doesn't mean anything, much like you said, Will. It doesn't mean anything if you don't do your homework beforehand. Do all of the work to figure out, why do you do what you do? Why does it matter? Why do you get up every single day? And if it's just to pay the bills, I mean, hey, and even that is a good thing. When it comes down to it, because I meant to mention this earlier, use the challenges and the struggles as well. I like to think of it as just all challenges. But if you're struggling, you're challenged, however you look at it, all of that can be used because it's part of your story. Believe it or not. And I've found so much inspiration in the challenges that I've had that reminded me of what the challenges others are going through. And boom, that gave me this insight as to what kind of content I could create that would relate to other people's challenges. And it allowed me to build rapport with them, to build relatability, to share space with them, share time with them, because it's about connecting with them. It's not about a transaction. Like you said, I think it's like the transaction is a byproduct, right? Like, hey, I really appreciate you. I want to add value to your life. So let me invest in your services because it's going to add value to mine. That's the way it should look.
Absolutely. You never know who you're going to inspire.
Yes, amen to that.
You know, I mean, that's the thing. And, you know, one of the things that a lot of that I find when we're working with people too is that oftentimes they get that renewed sense of purpose, right? Like, how many times have we sat down and like really, really got into it with a client, and like we started talking about their beginning, their origin story, their epiphanies, right? What happened here, what they went through. And next thing you know, that spark is ignited again, right? Like their passion for the business comes back, and it comes back tenfold because why? They actually they're reminded of who they are. They start to recognize again who they were meant to be. And that's when that story catches fire for them and their passions, right? And like they decide that, hey, this is the next level. This is what I want to do. That's when hey, you get everything else doesn't matter, right? Because when you put together the right information and give that and share that with the people that are around you, people are attracted to that. The customers are attracted to that. You know what I mean? Success is attracted to that. Mm-hmm. When you are really, really passionate about what you do, it shows, and it trickles down to your employees. They catch that fire. They get passionate as well, and you show that in the community because you know what, you're passionate about what you do, and so you're wanting to give back to your community. And so, like I said, you never know who you're going to inspire, and sometimes the biggest inspiration that you need is you. You need to be inspired about your own story.
Yes, and if you can't find a way to do that. Because I hear this often too, I just can't find inspiration. I don't have the inspiration. It's just a daily grind, you know. Maybe there's something always on their mind, or they're just not happy. To begin this process of really, really believing that your story is valuable, do something that you've never done before that makes you super uncomfortable. And the reason I say that is because I don't mean something destructive. I don't mean something totally like bad for your business. But what I mean is maybe go and volunteer and do something that is really just stretching you, or do something that really kind of freaks you out because you believe you can do it, you just don't know how, you don't know if you have the skill set currently, but you're gonna do it. And it could be anything. No matter what business you're in, there is a viable path in which I'm speaking here. Like, let's say you're in, I don't know, this is going to sound crazy, but let's say you're doing glass art. Or you sell glass art pieces. That's your store. It might not seem like much, but you've always been a consignment store, but maybe you get down and make your first piece of glass. You know, whatever it might be. It could be any business. I know for myself, what I did just recently, actually, was I was very, very... We all have you get in these... I don't want to call it a rut necessarily, but I want to call it like maybe a normalcy bias to your workload, or you get in this place where you're just complacent, but you're not trying to be complacent. It just kind of happens because your growth has reached this plateau. And I recently just had this opportunity where I was going to do a 3D modeling project that I had never done before so quickly, and needed to learn it, get it done, do all the trials and errors. it really gets you going when you've got those butterflies in your stomach, and you don't want to fail. Nobody wants to fail. So when you're thinking of your story and you're thinking about telling it and you're thinking about sharing it, of course you don't want to fail. But how could you? How could you fail at your own story? That's the beauty of telling your story, is it's not like a skill set or a task like I was trying to use in my analysis or my analogy there. Because that's not like even the best analogy, because I can actually fail at something, some task that I've never done. But really, the worst that I'm going to do at telling my own story is maybe I'm not as descriptive as I could be. Or it's amazing. You draw on this level of inspiration, like you were saying. It comes from the pit of who you are, that depth. So there's like an endless amount of how can I show myself more? How can I become that authentic person that I really see myself being? That's who I want to be. That's who I believe I am and I can be. So even just expressing it a little bit shows you there's an endless amount of inspiration to draw on, and it literally comes from doing it. It comes from expressing it. It comes from stepping into that unknown charted and that uncharted territory. The storms are coming at you. You feel the weight of the world. You're trying to run a business, so how is this practical? But it doesn't matter because it's your story. Isn't that just, I think that's exciting to me.
Oh, absolutely. It is your story, and it's not over until it's over, right? That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to keep going. And, and I think coming from a lot of people, I think the other side of it was for me, like, I could see people being like, well, that's self-centered. I don't want to talk about my story.
Oh, yeah.
And really that I kind of look at it like, man, but just think about it.
That's actually selfish not to share your story.
Right?
Right.
It is like you found, like, it's actually selfish, and you have the opportunity, responsibility as being a pillar in the business community, I feel, to lift up those around you.
Yes.
Right.
Amen.
And to be a great business, right? Not just a good business, to be a great business, right?
Yes.
To be a great neighbor to the other businesses in your community, to be that type of person that serves the community in the best way possible and provides the greatest customer service and provides and be passionate about like what it is that you do. Because, if you're not trying to do that, if you're not trying to be, the best at what you do, then why are you doing it? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you're not trying to be the best version of what you can provide, then, and learn from each other, and learn from other business owners and live with purpose and lead by example, because quite frankly, as a business owner, people look up to you. People think, people look to business owners as part of the pillars of the community. That's one of the things you say all the time, pillars of the community.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually think about it, it's selfish not to tell your story.
Yeah, and I love what you brought up there, because there's a little bit of unnerving but brutal truth here. And this happened with me. Years and years of sharing my why and getting inspired. Practicing this process, like I was telling you, of just really, really being articulate, finding ways to really convey to others. It showed me that what I was aiming for, or what activities I was involved in, I needed to change. And then it also showed me, what position do I really want to be in business? Do I want to be the owner? Do I want to be the employee? Do I want to be the CEO? Do I want to just be the bookkeeper? It actually causes you to be convicted by that conscience of yours, that wild little conscience, that thing that we have, and you start to be like, oh, shoot. I really love, I love what I do. I own this sports supply store, but I just realized the more I tell my story, the more I realize I want to train kids to be athletic. I don't want to be in the store all day. You know, that could happen. And that's okay. Be okay with where it takes you. Now, I think, because honestly, between you and I know this is off the beaten path. This is getting more into the maybe psychological aspects of the inner story and one's inner dialogue and story, right? Self-talk. But that's an important role here, because what it can end up doing is causing you to shift or transform the particular daily tasks that you have. So don't be afraid of that. Could happen. Because I think sometimes some people, they're really not happy with what they're doing. They think they are because they've adapted. They've adapted very well. There's a lot of good adaptations out there, right? But once you get to the heart of it, get to the root of it, you're like, okay. So, what I'm hoping for, though, is those of you who have already started your business, you've gone through enough of this, that you're listening to this podcast now, and you don't hate me because your identity doesn't feel under threat. Because that's what happens sometimes when we go deep into our story. We're like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing? I need to stop doing this. I need to really do what I love to do. And I have found that it's almost always a sequential thing, I guess you could say, where the thing you're doing now is actually already leading you to the thing you're supposed to be doing. And that might be the same business. Hopefully it is, because you've already found yourself in the right spot. But that is for a whole other time. I don't want to get in the weeds on that. What this talk is for really is assuming that you've already completely committed to what you love doing. Now you're just trying to share that story. But I suppose we could agree that even getting better at sharing that story will help you in finding out more and more of the truth as to why you do what you do. And sometimes it's kind of shocking. It's still shocking to me every day. I'm like, because I get up and I'm like, what is the point? I'll ask myself that sometimes, like once a week, sometimes once a month. Do you ever do that, Will? You just get up and you're like, okay, I know I love doing this. I know I serve people. It's what a blessing. But what's the point of what I do? Do you do that?
Yeah. I think you got to be conscientious of that, right? Like we want to say, hey, would I be my own customer?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Why would I choose to do business with myself?
Mm-hmm.
Why would I? And if you can answer those questions honestly and be like, yeah, I would 100% be my customer, and I would 100% do business with this guy, and then, hey, you're on the right track. But if you're asking yourself that and you're saying, you know what, maybe my service times could be a lot better. Maybe maybe I could do a lot better job of keeping me informed. If I was my customer, I would want to be more informed about, what I was doing.
Yes.
If you start looking at it from that human-centric component, like we always say, and saying and putting yourself in the position of, the people that you're trying to attract, the people that you want to do business with you, you really stop looking at it as a transaction. You really start to look at it as something that is more of a relationship. And that transcends the product, right? That transcends the service. It goes beyond, we have a saying at BSG Connect, we say transcend the transaction. Because that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to transcend that transaction. And the only way to really do that is to be effective at communication with your clients and customers and serve them at the best possible way that you possibly can, and give them an opportunity to know that you feel that way.
Yes.
So much so that you're willing to put it out there in video, that you're willing to put it out there in your copy, that you're willing to show and lead by example in the community that this is how business should be done.
Yes. And it's 100% in alignment. I think of good friends when I think of this concept that you're talking about. With my good friends, I'd give them anything, and I've witnessed over and over they would do anything for me. But we don't expect or look for anything from each other. Our friendship is the gift already, you know? And so we've got to look at our reason for serving people the same way. I completely agree with you. It is a gift to share time with somebody who would even consider working together. It's a gift to take that time together because so often have I met people that it was just destined that we were going to become great friends and never work together, but that's okay. Because that never would have happened if I had gone into it with the expectation that this has to be a transaction. Otherwise, what are we doing here? You know, that's why a lot of networking groups and business groups I don't really resonate with, because as much as they try to avoid that, it is in its nature that you can't come together with that mentality. And so the point of all this is that you actually begin to find that in your storytelling ability. And that is why authentic branding is so valuable, because it's just, I mean, I know you've witnessed it. I've witnessed miracles, literally miracles, marketing this way. The people that I've touched, the lives that I've touched, I've been blessed to be able to have people be moved in their spirit and in their hearts by the work that I was able to carry out for them. Like you can't beat that. Like that's when you know you've truly done something. And you can't do that without your story being completely, and that's, I want to put it like this, I guess, is that you guys, not only is telling your story good for your business and good for conveying to other people who you are and what you're really about, but I got to be honest with you, continuously getting better at sharing who you are and your story, it actually improves your character. It improves who you are. It improves the vision of who you want to be. And that is, I think, one of the best. We were given this exceptional tool. Our testimony is literally what it is, right? We have this testimony, and it's this all-inclusive, amazing tool that not only it helps others, but improves our own character, improves our vision as to who we want to be. And we have access to it anytime. And just by practicing it, we actually get better at it and dive deeper into it. I mean, whoa. That's how important your story is, guys. There's just no shortage in it. You can't lose getting better at sharing who you are. And I know, I don't know, I just want to break it down real quick that I know this sounds maybe a little, dare I say, woo-woo? Should I say, I know this sounds vague, but it's really not if you think about it. This struck me earlier as you were sharing and you were saying different great concepts, that the story and the handshake and that just magnificent aspect of human interaction has been moving the needle on culture and businesses and inspiring businesses to be better pillars in the community, to stand for just the highest level of integrity and values for future generations. This has been how it's always been done. And I think now that we've got so much of the digital space, we can all make that leap and just recognize that it's not that much different. Yeah, it's a virtual experience, but it's not an excuse not to do it and to be there. So there you have it. That's my thought.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. It's worth the time, energy, and effort to invest in yourself, to invest in your story, to invest in the future of what you were meant to become. as a business.
Whew. Wow. And on that note, I just want to thank you so much, Will. This has been an exceptional time. Do you have any final notes on this? The importance of one story and authentic branding.
I say, so for me, I would say this. I would say, number one, start. There's plenty of information out there. It's easy to get overwhelmed. Find somebody to talk to about it. You know what I mean? Find somebody to participate with you on it. Either it's, maybe somebody that's in your business, maybe it's another business that you respect that's doing something similar that you would like to emulate. But you know what I mean? Start getting people and gathering people around you that really understand how this works, and lean on them. If you don't have the money, that's the best way to do it. If you do have the money to hire somebody to come in and help you with this, then do yourself a favor and make this something that you're going to commit to for the long term. And make sure that you hire the right people that really have your best interests at heart, and really, really want to help you to tell the story the way it needs to be told. So those would be my two.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And where can people find you? I know we can send them over to bsgconnect.com. Where else can they find you? What are your socials, if you have any?
Yeah. So they can find me on bsgconnect.com. They can find me on LinkedIn as well as Facebook, basically all the regular social medias. And then, of course, they can check out our podcast on YouTube. It's breakthrough broadcast. So love to hear from people, and thank you so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. And you guys, Will is awesome. He does amazing things, has a vast knowledge about marketing and strategizing and how to get all of these, systematize the things that you need to have for your business and customer connectivity. And we are actually partnered. We do a lot of great things together. As many of you know, I have Bauer Master Productions. I'm my video production company. You guys can always go over there, but we are also partnered too. So if you need a full suite of strategies and services, we can help you out. Thank you guys for listening. It's always a pleasure, Will, and I hope you all have had a chance to change your creative mind.